is watching Black men greet each other. Just the way they like
Oh,
dap each other up, the cheer on their face
my favorite thing.
is
My
priceless.
favorite thing. Thank you so much, Randy, for that opportunity. Yes.
You can really turn it on and off. I'm impressed. What is the status? Are Keith and Jackee still getting married?
Well, because I mean, by the way, you're so dead on. Yeah, very. I was drawn
Oh,
in.
good. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Stay tuned for that. I'll report back. But
Now, I think men are understanding more and more that the definition of masculinity, of being a man, that was instilled in us and taught to us by our grandfathers, the by culture of 40 years ago, does not have to exist the same way today.
what up, what up, what up? It is Saturday, September 14th. Today, we are going from politics to pop culture, and I have the pleasure of having the Philip Smithey joining me today. Philip Smith.
Hello.
Philip Smithey, also known as Keith Johnson, also known as Darren Phillips, also known as Arnold. And if you ask the right person, he could be a British monarch. More on that later. I thought you would like that. Philip, how are you doing today?
I'm doing so well. How are you, Randy? It's so great to be with you today.
Thank you for making the time. Now, let me tell y'all about Philip. So, I sent this brother a cold email inviting him on the show, thinking that it would go in the abyss of celebrity emails that I have sent out. And he responded 10 minutes later. And not only did he respond quickly, but he said yes. So, thank you, Philip. You are the first guest that I booked for this show. You're the first appearance as well.
Oh,
So thank you. It means a lot to me, and you're stuck with me for the rest of your career, from now
I'm
until your
I am
first
so
Grammy.
honored. I am so honored, Randy. Thank you for the opportunity. It's awesome just to get to chat with you, and especially because we're on different coasts, right? You're in New York, I'm in
Yeah,
LA. It feels like we're just bridging nations right now.
I agree completely, and I'm actually kind of a LA hater. Maybe I should have saved that for the
Ooh,
end.
go
So
ahead.
you may have to share why I should like LA because usually I I'm not a fan. But
Well,
anyway,
that makes sense. We are currently on fire right now. If you're not aware, we are going through multiple wildfires, so the world doesn't seem to like LA right now either.
oh my goodness, are you and yours safe, good, all of that?
We are safe. I can't smell the barbecue outside quite yet. But I can't see the ash, but you know how it is. Someone starts some ruckus up in these woods and things go amok.
Oh my
So,
goodness. Well, I'm glad you're safe. I hope it stays that way. On a brighter note, no pun intended, you are currently starring in Johnson, airing on Bounce TV, airing on Brown Sugar. And I don't think I've ever watched a show centered around Black men that frames them so intentionally. If you haven't yet had the pleasure of watching this show, I'm going to show you a little bit so you can get the fuller picture.
What's up? Nothing. Okay.
Philip Smithey stars in hit bounce TV show Johnson. His character, Keith, and Omar Gregg and Jarvis Johnson have captivated fans for 4 seasons now. The quartet first met in their Atlanta elementary school and became friends thanks to each of their last names being Johnson. When teachers lined students up in alphabetical order, they were always next to each other and instantly hit it off. Their friendship became a brotherhood from playgrounds to adulthood, and the series shows what their life is like now, chasing careers, balancing life and love, showing up for each other, and, of course, calling out the nonsense that they do, as all good friends do. The storylines also include issues of racial justice, mental health, classism, as well as lighter topics like drama in the barbershop or on the basketball court and how to slide into someone's DMs. I actually had fans of the show send in videos to you, and I am going to play those for you now.
oh my God. Okay, here we go. Here we go. All right. And
I get to see
rolling.
4 guys who have formed this brotherhood with each other, and through thick and thin, no matter what is going on, they are there for each other. You know, when one brother is going through something, the others show up for the one in need.
Honestly, this show has opened up my mind and my heart to what the everyday Black man may be experiencing.
Oftentimes, we are living in a world where the stigma is that men should not cry, men should not show emotions.
And showing us a different way of maneuvering through life's challenges, our experiences.
The relationships, the way they support each other, the way they hold each other accountable, the vulnerability they have amongst each other. I can really appreciate that.
As being a Black woman married to a Black man and having a Black son, as well as serving Black children and families in our communities, it is so important that we have something that highlights the importance of Black men and their relationships, their vulnerability, their resilience, the things that they experience, the things that go unsaid.
Keith's character in particular, the impact he's had on me is just, you know, being able to see him go from someone who at the beginning was trying to find his way to now actually finding his way and having good things come his way, including his bride-to-be.
We've all been Keith at one point in our lives, going after people or things that didn't really suit us or were best for us, and we just keep trying until we get it right.
Just keep up the good work with the show, guys. I will be continuing to watch.
Hey, what's up, man? What's up? I'm here to let you know, Phil, that you are really killing it on the Johnson series, man, imitating a guy who's a really sexy man in real life, you know. That guy would be me, of course, you know what I'm saying?
That beard, though, man, growing it out.
I just want to give you some love, man. You're doing a great job, man. I love your character. I love what you're able to bring to the character. And I want to let you know I'm very proud of you, and thank you for making you and my life look so good, man. You know what I'm saying? We're actually the ones with the least amount of drama on the show.
Yeah,
we're killing it the most. We're both great photographers.
That's right.
We both have beautiful women. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. Go ahead. What a treat! I love that dude. I love Will. That was amazing. I almost cried. That was thank you for that. Okay, that was amazing. How do I get back to you?
Yes.
That was incredible. I'm kind of in awe right now. Pull it back. Close that. Okay. Thank you. That was insane. Yeah.
What do you think when you hear all this praise about you?
I mean, I'm blown away I'm overflowed with gratitude to all the people who this show has touched, to the narrative that we're putting forward into the world. Everyone has a story to tell. Every creative, every artist has a story to tell, a reason why they get into this business. And I think one of the greatest reasons can and should be to express something that touches the people around you, that makes them feel seen and heard and understood. And Johnson is very much about trying to show the world what it's like, the perspective of Black men in this country, which actually is very reflective of this perspective of many people in the world, and to express a story that doesn't have to center around the negative in order to be compelling, in order to be, in order to show us as humans, right? Because that's what the story is. It's a very human story. And I'm so honored that, people are connecting to it. All I've wanted to do is work as an actor. I just wanted to be able to express myself, and this show has given me that opportunity and then some, more than I even thought would be possible. So I'm just so blessed and grateful.
Yes, some of the viewers said that you've inspired them, or Keith has inspired them, to trust the process and to trust the journey. How does that land with you, Philip?
I'm still very much in that same headspace. I'm every day learning to trust the process and trust the journey, because, as I'm sure you know, it's such a difficult thing to have a dream that is this pursued after by the multitudes. A lot of people want to act, a lot of people want to work in this business, and it's very competitive. and it takes a lot of dedication, it takes a lot of commitment, it takes a lot of hard work, it takes a lot of resilience. And you have to trust the process if you are going to succeed. You have to trust the journey. You have to celebrate every step along the journey if you're going to find any level of success, because otherwise you will give up. You'll stop. It's too hard to hear that many no's and to go through that much rejection and to be self-critiquing every step of the way, because this is probably one of the few jobs you can have where you're looking right at every flaw all the time. You're observing everything that you're doing, and it can be really disheartening if you don't have the spirit and the headspace of just perseverance, and endurance, and just like being like, it's okay, it's okay.
It's going to work out one day at a time, one foot in front of the other. And the journey up to this point has you stopped at Johnson right now. Right. How did you first learn that you landed the role of Keith?
So in 2015, so Johnson was written in 2014 by our executive producer, creator, Deji LeRae. In 2015, I was a casting assistant on a project that was an Issa Rae produced film called Killing Lazarus. Okay. We were looking for our male lead who would play the main character, and Deji LeRae, an actor, comes in the room, and I'm just a reader, so I don't have any authority, but I do notice, I'm like, this guy is, he's got a great look, he's got great skills.
And Deji also plays Greg in the show, y'all, just for context.
He plays Greg in the show, that's right. And so I was really excited about him. I put in my 2 cents. I'm like, I think this is the guy, even though they're like, cool, you have, I guess, an opinion, but they apparently liked it because he did end up being the main character. And the person whose film it was, I went to college with. I went to Morehouse College, and they went to Spelman, Jamila Biggs. And so they ended up shooting that film. I convinced her into giving me a small part because I'm like, hey, listen, this project seems really cool. I just want to can I be a little piece of it? And so she gave me this tiny role to play what I now refer to as if drug dealing was an enterprise, I basically played the general manager of a drug house. I'm doing quality control. I'm like, all right, guys, hey, you got to make sure, let's have a great day today, selling some drugs. So it was kind of funny. And that's where I met Deji, on that set, performing that character. We had a really great rapport. We had a great couple scenes. And Deji remembered me from that process, from making that project together, and approached me years later when he decided to self-produce and fund this pilot, Johnson, along with someone he had just met, Thomas Q. Jones, who plays Omar, who's the other executive producer and creator of the show. They put the team together, including myself, including Derek Brady, who plays Jarvis, who also was in that project playing a detective.
Oh, really? I didn't know the three of y'all went back to that. Okay.
We went all the way back to that, but I did not know Derek's at the time. We didn't have any scenes together, so we only saw each other in passing. But they remembered us. They had a great experience with us, and that's kind of why I say you're always planting seeds. No matter what project you do, you give it your 100%, and you are just open, palms up to the experience and to meeting people and to networking. And it was in 2017 when they said, hey, we're going to produce this thing. We want you to be in it and play this role, play the role of Keith. I read the scripts. It was fascinating how similar it felt to myself. I had never seen a role where there had been a character who had the quirky, somewhat neurotic, comical, but also very emotionally in touch, also very intelligent character. And I knew I had to do that role. I knew I had to be part of this project, and I got to add as much of myself to it as I possibly could. We shot the first pilot with all own clothes, adding lines. I probably improv'd half of my scenes in the pilot.
Oh, really?
In the first one, which no one's seen, the true pilot was
Oh, okay.
reshot
I was gonna
once
go
it
back and
got.
watch season 1, episode 1, because I'm a big fan, like I said. But
And
no, I think the like adorkableness
yeah,
of Keith is what you're touching on, because we're introduced to him in season 1, episode 1. Everyone is getting out of the car looking tough, their fits on, and meanwhile, he can't get out the car because the child lock is on. And then
yeah,
fast forward to season 4, and the guys are in therapy to support Omar, but in their own individual sessions. Greg, of course, waiting in the parking lot. And Keith says, well, actually, I wear women's deodorant. It's more effective. Which, by the way, there's a couple of men in my family who have said that same thing. They wear unscented men's or women's deodorant because it just works better. So there's these moments of Keith not being the typical masculine guy, but yet
yeah,
still very masculine.
yeah.
How much of that is you? How much of Keith is in Philip? That's what I want to know.
There's a lot of Keith in Philip. I grew up in Texas, and I never felt very tough. I did martial arts my entire childhood, but Texas and where I grew up especially was a very specific culture. Football is everything.
Yes.
That certain, stereotypical projection of masculinity and the home. And I was always a very sensitive kid. I was always in theater. I cried very easily. Most of my friends were girls. I just felt very connected to my emotions even from an early age. And I also grew up in a family of women as well. So I wouldn't call myself, I would call myself very like kind of quirky and funny and awkward. And I also was very much one of only a few Black people in my school. So I had that kind of isolation as well. And so all those elements combined, I just found myself feeling very different until I went to Morehouse College, and that's when I kind of discovered like my love and my place in the Black community and how I felt at and the Black community kind of found me a little different as well, and I found my place being my awkward, quirky self and having that be accepted there. And knowing, oh, this is how I fit in. I don't have to fit in this other way. I don't have to be
Yes.
adhere to, the whole grown and sexy thing. I never had it. It's like, I don't know. Like
It skipped you, huh?
It skipped me because I had a 12-year-old face on a 6'2" body, and I probably was only about 150 pounds when I
Oh,
first
wow.
hit 6
Yeah.
feet 2. So I'm just this gangly guy who is, like doing theater and doing Shakespeare monologues in the corner. And
Not in the corner.
right, why in the corner?
Nose in the corner. But I think what you're getting at is the awkwardness or the quirkiness became who you are, and
Yeah.
you like accepted that. And there's a really good essay by Ariane Cruz that talks about how awkwardness kind of disarms people and becomes the new thing that Black people are allowed to do. This particular essay was pegged to Awkward Black Girl, the web series, but it certainly is true with Keith. It certainly is true with the show. And we enter season 4, seeing the guys kind of have a different dynamic in their friendship. Keith is the more stable one after a few seasons of like trying to get on his feet. Suddenly Jarvis is having a little money trouble, which we're not expecting from him as a real estate agent. Omar is also having difficulty actually getting his workers to work. And Greg is more stable, which he previously was kind of between jobs and Ubering and stuff. Money in friendships can be hard. The financial dynamic in friendships can be hard. How do you think sort of the role reversals are going to impact this core friend group on the show?
That's a really great question, because it's true. There's been so many stable dynamics in the show up till this point. Jarvis is very successful. Omar's got his business, but his relationship is more rocky. And now we're sort of seeing that script flip with Greg getting, his footing, Keith getting his footing.
Yeah.
I can say that I think that what this show is exhibiting is that these friendships have a lot of ups and downs, but the strength of their friendship and their ability to talk through difficult situations, their ability to work things out with each other, helps them to navigate the stresses of what could be financial hardships between any of them. I think it'll be really fun to see if Keith gets to this new point or in his career financially where he's able to actually be, you know, more of a support system to his brothers, because
Yeah.
that's kind of how it works in real life. You never know at what point someone is going to be experiencing some sort of turnaround or blessing in their life or reaching that new level, and it changes things amongst
Yeah, for sure.
people.
And I think, you know, if everyone wants to go on a trip, and originally when Greg said he couldn't make it to the Bahamas trip, I immediately thought, oh, he doesn't have the money. But then turns out it was just over not having a passport. And I think even in my own life, when I'm planning different things with different friends, I am taking into account, okay, is this one of my friends who's from back in the day who may not have it, or one of my
Right.
friends from later in life who is in the corporate world and may have it. So
Right.
what is your surefire way to like manage friends and money and socioeconomic differences?
I think everybody wants time. Everybody want, like, that's the thing that you invest with friendships is if you're giving people if you're giving people time, then it doesn't matter what it is that you're doing, and then everything gets understood. If someone doesn't have the money, let's say, to do something, then maybe they just need to be invested in a different way that doesn't
Movie
require.
night at house at the home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
anything small. And yeah, also just understanding, you have to show people at any point that you believe in them,
Yeah.
because today may be a hardship, but tomorrow won't be. So like you have to be planning for that future, saying, hey, we can't do this now. Well, best believe that this is going to happen later, because I know where we're both going to be. I know you're going to be making moves, and you want to inspire your friends as well. Not just,
Yes.
even if they're, you know, at a down place, you got to be encouraging them to progress and to reach that next level, because that's what should
Yes.
be happening for you. Everyone should be building. Everyone should be constantly trying to improve. And it's okay if,
Yes.
you know, you're not where you want to be now, but tell them this is, let's get there. Let's get there in the future.
Yeah. Speaking of
Yeah.
get there in the future, Keith has a city council campaign that hasn't even started yet, and he's already kind of sort of trying to back out. And I refuse to let that happen. I want to see the race, if nothing else, than for the reason that his opponent would be his fiance's father, which
My
is
goodness.
quite a dynamic. And I guess, okay, just off the cuff, riffing, what is Keith's campaign speech if you had to give it today?
Oh gosh. Okay, that's a great question. Let's see. So Keith's campaign speech. This community, which we all cherish so deeply, is being overcome with the ambitions of selfish and self-motivated corporations that don't have your interests. And we need to fight that in order to maintain the integrity of this thing that we have built together. If I am elected to city council, I will put your needs first, and I will ensure that any of the money that comes into this neighborhood, into this community, is done so with you in mind and to your benefit, not the benefit of these greedy corporations.
Woo!
Woo!
Cheer,
Let's
cheer,
go.
cheer. That was
Yeah.
good right off the cuff. Wow, I'm impressed. That was good. That was really good. So, speaking of your fiance, Jackee, and she's surprisingly supportive of the campaign. Like, she's pretty much dismissed her father in that
I
lane.
like, which is wild, right? I'm like, okay, we know whose team she's on.
Like, what are the odds of that happening? But she's 10 toes down behind Keith on that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's another wrinkle in their relationship. We saw in last week's episode that while out with the guys, Keith accidentally calls her. She overhears what she thinks is unfavorable and kind of runs off and it's tough. What is the status? Are Keith and Jackee still getting married?
Well, we'll have to see what happens next, but it is true. There were some very sensitive things said on the phone, which he did not know he did not know he was connected to Jackee. And I think it was just a moment of honesty that a lot of people experience when they're being very reflective or introspective about their relationship, where their life is going. It's a very honest thing, and that's what the show does so well is it gives you both sides of an argument. It tells you both perspectives of any given situation. And Keith and Jackee, if we think about it, their relationship has come very far very quickly. So that's not typical. I mean, it's possible it happens, but when you think about, all right, this is a major life decision and it's about to happen very soon. I think it's normal to have a moment where you're wondering are these choices the right choices? What's next? And, now she's got to make a choice too. Now that she's heard what she's heard, she gets to make her own choice. But everyone has a right to think. But when you think out loud and on the phone, then results may vary.
Right. He was flowing just with his bros. And I think what had me rolling my eyes is that she hung up before Keith finished the statement, because the second half after she hung up was really beautiful and clearly communicated his intentions. So there's been a debate on social media. I've been reading the comments and people are wondering whether Jackee should have listened at all. Like when she realized it was an accidental call. Do you, Philip, listen to that call?
Would I listen to the call? Oh, 10 times out of 10. Probably. I probably would have listened to the whole, especially if someone's talking about me, I would have wondered if it was real. I'm like, this is insane that I'm hearing this information right now. I would have listened the whole time. Now, what do I do with it? I don't know.
Yeah.
Philip is very much anti-conflict. So I do a lot more arguments in my own head than out into the world. And I would probably be having a lot of introspection myself about what to do with this information if I had heard the part of the conversation that Jackee heard and not the part that Keith said afterwards.
Yeah, but I'm also team listen to the whole thing. You can't stop midway through. You need all the context.
Yeah, I need all the information. Yeah. Have you ever done that before? Have you ever heard a conversation or has everyone ever butt dialed you and you're like hearing crucial information that you're like, all right, what's going on?
So I have received a butt dial, but it's never been crucial information. It's always, somebody shuffling around in their purse or getting on the subway. I await the day where it's actually something interesting.
I've been guilty one time.
Oh, really?
I was running a meeting, and this was not a phone call conversation. I was running a Zoom meeting with some people, and I had to, and I was saying goodbye to one of the folks there, and so I thought they logged off. But then after they logged off, I kind of was saying to myself, I was doing a little bit of complaining about the job they were doing. I was like, oh, gosh, they do this every time. But they were still online, and I got called out about that,
in the moment,
10 minutes later. In 10 minutes later after I hung up, because we were all about to hang up anyway. But I had never been more like, oh, I felt so tense and so guilty for even saying anything. And it really wasn't a big deal. I was just like, I wish they had been more blah, 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 blah.
So what was the outcome? Have you worked with that person again?
Oh, yeah. No, that's all been handled. But what was great about it is that they called me and addressed me directly about it. And they said, hey, if this is how you feel, let's talk about that, because I don't appreciate you saying this to other people about if you think I'm not doing the job or something like that. And I could do nothing except apologize and agree. I was like, you're 100% correct. I should never reflect. I should never have said anything to anyone else. It was really just an inner thought that I happened to kind of say out loud.
Yeah, they handled that very professionally, coming to you
Very
directly, not
professional.
in front of everyone else. I respect that. I probably
Exactly.
would handle it that same way.
I was like, oh man. And ever since, like, I already had respect for this person, but now I have darn near reverence because the way they handled that, I'm like, you're incredible.
Yes, yes. So one of the things that we heard from some fans is how what's for you is for you. And I think Keith is a great example of that. And how important it is to pick the right partner for you. So I was worried about Keith during the Bianca episodes. I didn't know if he was gonna have his eyes open to the reality of that situation,
Right.
and what kind of came across as awkward or weird in front of Bianca now is some of the things that Jackee cherishes in him.
Mm-hmm.
So can you just describe being Keith going from Bianca to Jackee and how his life just kind of has went up since making that decision?
Yeah. When we start our journey with Keith, he is a freelance photographer. He doesn't he doesn't understand what he's worth. He doesn't know how to demand his payment, the respect of his clients. And then he has been making kind of surface connections with this model who he's crushing on. And it's very reflective of life where you have these relationships with people that you kind of have an idea in your head of what that person is actually like or who they really are, and you make your decisions based on that idea, that I perspective of a person rather than actually getting to know them.
Right.
He put a lot of chips in the basket of this person who he idealized as being his potential partner. And because of that, and I think you only do that when you don't really have that understanding of yourself either. You don't really know what it is that you value, what you want. So you just sort of, paint this picture in your head of this person who you might think is right for you. But if you don't actually know them, then how can you make that decision? How can you determine that?
Right.
So when he met Jackee, then Keith is already in a place where he knows himself more. He has more confidence. He has more self-respect. He has the understanding and the friendship and the camaraderie of his guys who are also at the same time getting to understand and know him more because of the situation that they've been through.
Right.
And all those things add up to when him being in the right place in his life, in his emotions, to meet someone new and to be himself
And to be open to it.
and to be open to it. We get those seeds planted really early on, even in the first season, when Keith has kind of said his piece to Omar and he's at that bar. He's drinking a grown up drink. He's got his Jameson on the rocks. And he's kind of just thinking about, like, what's next for me? Like, I want respect from now on. I want to be seen as a man, as a professional, as all these things. And that's when we actually see Jackee come into the
Yeah,
scene,
she
and she's like,
does.
"How are you doing?" And then suddenly he's seeing himself differently, and he starts seeing the world around him. And it was just this beautiful moment in time where the pieces started to come together, and that's when you find these amazing relationships and can be open to what's for you.
Yes. And I think how the guys weeded out Bianca to know if she was on games or not is such a good example of why I love this show so much, because it centers Black men while still respecting women. And I don't often see that in shows, like, period, or just in real life at
Mm.
all. And also, like, it's not so robotic and forced and just effortlessly weaves in components of social media or components of love, components of brotherhood in a way that just lands so natural and authentic. Sometimes I'm watching the show and I pick up my phone to call Keith because that's how real and genuine it feels. But
Right.
to the point of, friends scheming to try to get some information and, like, doing it in a way that comes with some respect and correct. How common do you think that is among Black male friend groups? Because usually it's the opposite and it's a lot of foolishness.
Yeah. I think it's so much more common than we realize. And I think that's a lot
Really?
of why the show needed to happen, is because we haven't seen instances like that where, Black men are confiding in each other, sharing the vulnerabilities, these things that are happening, especially now in the world that we're living in, where mental health and
Yeah.
being connected to your own well-being and wellness is so in the forefront of pop culture and society. Um, I I know more people like the cast of Johnson than the cast of some other show. Like I don't
Right.
know
No,
anyone
same. I'm
who,
people.
yeah, I don't know anyone who's, like not taking care of their kids, who's not being responsible, who's not going through something and trying to like do better and confide. Um, some of the people I admire the most are people who very much remind me of the Johnson cast, who will call me up months after not talking to me and be like, "Hey, just checking in, seeing how you're doing." Like, and I'm like, I'm good. How are you?" Like, that's an
Yeah.
incredible thing. That's what makes life worth living, is when you feel connected to the people around you, and when you feel like you have investment and like you're being understood. It's what gives you the strength to do the things that to follow your ambitions and to seek your dreams, because you think you have backup, you have foundation. And I want to be the foundation for my friends and my circle, and I want them to be the same for me. So,
Yes.
yeah, I think that is happening. It can certainly happen more. I think there is a gap between how often men will just reach out to their brothers and confide, and how often I think we see it happening with women. Um, I wish I need to do better. I need to be calling my friends more. I need to be checking in more. But it is happening. Uh, um, it's not going on at all. It's
Yeah.
just, we can be so much more effective at being a shoulder and a foundation to each other. But that's what we have. That's what I love about the friends that I do have.
Amen. Here, here. One of my favorite things to do sometimes if I'm, people watching in the park or just around the mall, whatever, is watching Black men greet each other. Just the way they like
Oh,
dap each other up, the cheer on their face
my favorite thing.
is
My
priceless.
favorite thing. How many like I didn't even know this until um the show Blackish, the nod that we talked, like
Yes.
it's hardwired in there. And I've lived some very remote places. I lived in a little tiny town in Utah when I was doing a Shakespeare
Oh,
festival.
wow.
I lived in like the backwoods of Connecticut and stuff. So you're anywhere. You're at a gas station, you're at a restaurant, you're at a movie theater, and you just make eyes with
It holds.
with the
It
brother,
holds.
and it's always the same thing. Like, how you doing? Like, it's insane. I love it. It's one of my favorite things.
Oh man, no, it brings me such joy because for that split second, it's pure joy between
Yeah,
those brothers,
yeah.
and that just it warms my heart. And some of the things you were describing is very modern, right? Still new ideas, and I think the associations with what does it mean to be a Black man or masculinity is still very much being teased out, and the
Right.
show is presenting it can be all of those things and like none of them. We can redefine and create our own definition of masculinity. We have Greg, who is driving this gas guzzler and is not ready for therapy yet. And then on the other end, we have Keith, who is like as eco-friendly, washing dishes, all the things, right? Supporting his queen.
And they understand each other. They're friends. They get
And
it.
they are
Yeah, they
friends and they
support.
can coexist in this circle. So my question for you, Philip Smithey, is how has the way Black men express masculinity changed over time as you take it in?
That's a great question. It has entirely evolved from what I understood it to be as a kid to a young adult to now. I think just the conversations that people are having, the amount of emphasis being put on mental health, on self-care, and on the relationships and acceptance of various cultures, peoples, the equity that we are all searching for and trying to create as a species. Now I think men are understanding more and more that the definition of masculinity, of being a man, that was instilled in us and taught to us by our grandfathers, by the by culture of 40 years ago, does not have to exist the same way today.
Yeah.
I think it's about partnership. I think we are trying to create a system where people all understand each other, where no one has to be suffering in silence, because we're seeing the ramifications and the cultural scars of how we have not been allowed to express ourselves. There's this documentary I watched on, I think it was Netflix, Daughters, which was about these incarcerated men who got the opportunity to have their children visit them in prison, to have a father-daughter dance.
Wow.
They have to go through like a 10-week program of behavioral therapy. And then once they go through that, then their daughters get to see them in prison. And they have this one day, this one perfect day where they get to be with their kids. And I watched that, and it turns out that, like, I guess 95% of the people who go through that experience, once they leave jail, they never return, because something's been opened up in them about like the responsibility they feel, the connection to their family, to their community. And the answer is so often like, how am I feeling? What am I going through? That's informing the choices that I'm making for my life. And to think about how something as simple as, hey, what if we allow you to connect with your child, can have a long-term
Who would have thought
effect,
that would make you become whole,
become a better person? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's insane, but that's people are waking up to the real differences and the real effect that things have on your well-being, just by taking care of yourself, by being allowed to express when you're feeling vulnerable, when you're not okay, and having someone give you some help, advice, love.
Yes.
Right?
Something I'm realizing right now. Oh, sorry, complete your thought.
No, because we all need the same thing. That's all I was going to say.
Yes, something I'm navigating now is that self-care is not always just going to take a nap. Like sometimes I'll be like, oh, I need a break, so I'll go take a nap. But then I wake up and then immediately start doing stuff. And I just recently told myself, okay, Randy, you need time where you are sitting down doing nothing. And no, that is not just go take a nap. Like literally on the couch, stare at your blank wall if that's what it takes. So I'm separating rest, like downtime, from rest as in sleeping time. So yeah, stay tuned for that. I'll report back. But last question on masculinity. You mentioned at the top how you were raised by mostly women, and your dad passed when you were a teenager. And I wonder, how did you develop your sense of manhood in that context?
That's a great. I always knew I wanted to be an actor, and I always knew that I was a little kind of different from the people around me, just because, so I guess I tried to just, as long as I felt comfortable in my environment, then was enough for me.
Yeah.
I knew I couldn't do what other people were doing. I knew I wasn't strong enough to play, or buff enough to play football. I knew I wasn't ever going to be white. I knew I wasn't ever, I knew that I had what I had, and I knew I was kind of goofy. So I just let that be. I'm like,
you work with what you have. Totally.
I just worked. I'm like, I just have to work with what I have. And I guess in terms of when I grew up and kind of became a man, I just knew that I knew I could be responsible. So that was the very first thing that happened for me in college, is when my sophomore year came about, my mom, um, my mom, I took responsibility of tuition away off of her. I got a
Okay.
job and I decided I'm going to pay for the rest of college myself.
Wow.
And so that was I'm like that's manhood now. Like I took over. I remember taking over my phone bill. I remember getting an apartment, and I remember paying
Wow.
for all of it with student loans and California Pizza Kitchen. Waiting tables. And to
Yep.
me, that was like growing up, and that was being an adult, and that was being a man. And funny enough, one of the first biggest
Absolutely.
lessons I learned was from one of my coworkers, who she was only a few years older than me, but she taught me this lesson that I kind of used for the next like 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
She was just a server too, but she told me that she had like 40 or $50,000 in the bank,
Wow.
and she had some sort of side job as well. And I'm like, how do you do that? And she said, I never live in a place that will cost me more than 1 week of work.
Mm.
And so I thought
It's a good
about that.
strategy.
I'm like, that's an incredible strategy. And she said, she's like, I always have at least 3 months of money in the bank. Otherwise, like, I just have to hustle until I get it, because you just never know what could happen. So she
Right.
taught me this level of responsibility and I guess taking care of myself that in my mind translated into, oh my, okay, I'm an adult now. I know what to do. I know how to, and I know I need to hustle and do this job or that job or both in order to have this much money. And I know I'm kind of this goofy, awkward guy. So this is what I got to work with. Let's just see where that lands with people. And this is
And
me
it's
now.
landing. It's
Yeah.
landing. Excellent. So at the top, I mentioned that you can be a British monarch. We were talking off camera about that. Can you tell the people why I said that?
Yes. So my full name is Philip Arthur Jordan Smithey the fifth. Yeah, it's a legacy passed down to me from my father. And this is a funny story. When my father was when he was in the hospital in his last days, I remember
Mm.
telling him that Dad, I'm going to name my son Philip as well. He will be Philip the sixth. And he looks me right in the eyes and he goes, eh, like, and
Oh, that's a good one.
yeah, it was just like, hey, you can do what you want. It was just him telling me that he loved me
Mm.
and like I don't have to follow anyone's path except my own. And
So what are you gonna do? Are you gonna name your kid the sixth?
I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure yet. I'm open to it, but I also don't have to. We can chart a new course if we wanted to.
Yeah.
I really like my name confuses people because I'm commonly known to my friends and family as AJ, but professionally I've always been known as Philip. And then in school growing up, some years I would be referred to as AJ, some years I'd be referred to as Philip. Um, so I would love for my child to have a strong sense of like, no, no,
This is it.
just call me this, and have
Yeah.
that kind of identity that they can just latch on to,
Yeah.
they can give to the world.
I love
So
that
I'm
your
not sure.
dad
Maybe
took
I'll
the
just still
pressure
take it
off.
away name. Yeah, and take
Yeah,
the
like
pressure
taking
off.
the pressure off that you can decide for yourself. I also said the British monarch comment because you actually do accents and you do a British accent. So I'm gonna just give you a phrase and I want you to say it as British monarch
All right.
Philip.
Sounds
I should
good. Let's see
say
what I got.
British monarch Smithy the fifth. Okay, great. You must storm the enemy to retrieve my poodle.
Okay. I'll try to say that with a straight face. We must storm the enemy to retrieve my poodle immediately. Thank you.
That was excellent.
Thank,
Wow.
thank you so much, Randy, for that opportunity. Yes.
You can really turn it on and off. I'm impressed.
I'm certain that I can actually be better if I stop laughing and almost cracking up at what we're doing right now.
Wow, that's a really good one. Okay. And so we've talked so much about the journey, about self-discovery, about evolving, and this has been a very much in progress journey for most people, for me, for you.
Right.
And it wasn't until your 101st audition that you booked and you finally landed it. What was it?
So I auditioned. One of the very first things I ever booked was this show, Rizzoli and Isles.
Oh yeah, I watched
and I
that
didn't
show.
have any lines, but all I had to do was react to a dead body falling from the ceiling. And I was in that room, and everyone else who saw it screamed. And when I went in the room, I don't know why, but as soon as the dead body fell, I just looked at it. I didn't scream. I didn't make a single noise. And I guess that was something that they saw was different in the moment. And so after that, the first thing that I got after that, where I actually got to like speak and got to really showcase any of what I wanted to do, was Criminal Minds. And it wasn't the first audition that I booked it. That office, which was run by Scott David and Lisa Zambetti at the time, they brought me in like 10, 11 times.
Wow.
And it wasn't until that 11th time that I actually finally booked that role. And so this is over the course of what, a year of just auditioning again and again and again. And you're happy because you think, oh, cool, these people, they like me, and I am, in their headspace. But when you do it 9 times and you still just aren't
what a
getting anything,
drag.
you're like, all right, you're like, okay, here we go. And now I'm so desensitized to not booking things that, I mean, it's been a while, and I've had plenty of auditions. Well, not plenty, it's been very, very slow, but I've had a number of auditions for projects, and as soon as I turn those tapes in, I'm like, well, that was fun. I'll never see those people again.
There it goes.
You're like, there it goes. You just do the work you can, and you just really enjoy getting to sink your teeth into that role for that day, for those few days that you're working on this project. I just turned in a tape yesterday for a project that is for a great show, and they asked if you had horse riding experience in the show.
Oh, I love horse riding.
And so I was like, I don't have anything else to do today. I'm going to go to this ranch in Compton, and I'm going to go do this tape on a real horse and turn that in. And so I just did it because I could, and because why not? Like, who knows? Like, at least I show them that skill I have. I had fun doing it. I have no idea if it'll turn into anything, but you can't do the audition and think, oh, this has to be the one. This has to be the one, because it doesn't have to be the one.
Right.
The roles that are for you are going to just come, period. So,
and either way, you got to ride a horse out of it.
Yeah. Do the audition because you like to act, and because it's fun to act, and act really, and just act your butt off in it.
And act your butt off. So you had a very odd motivation come your way while you were still auditioning, while you were still working in restaurants for 10 years. And that is one of your coworkers later became an Avenger. And I must hear the backstory to this.
So strangely enough, over the course of my life upbringing, I've seen a lot of people have turned into incredible artists. And when I was a freshman at Morehouse, I was cast to run the homecoming, and one of my big scenes was leading in. I was playing the Sandman, and one of my big scenes was leading in the fairy godmother, who was played by this no-name lady named Janelle Monáe.
Just nobody.
And then in high school, I remember I was doing this play, and this other actor's mom brought in cupcakes, and we all thought she was really pretty, but we also thought that he was kind of pretty too. He was just a really good looking child. And his name was Chase Crawford, and now he's the Deep on The Boys. So like I've kind of been around a lot
Wow.
of people who like have come up really quick. But in
Yeah.
this particular instance, so there was a busser at this restaurant I was working at who got fired because he was just terrible at the job. Because he was like kind of clumsy and kind of just like he just didn't take it too seriously. He didn't take the job seriously. He didn't really care. He was just a really nice guy, really jovial, and he was also really big. So he was kind of
Mm.
awkward and clunky around stuff. But then I see him a few weeks later, or like a few months later, and he's happy as a clam. And I'm just asking him how he's doing. And he says he got this thing that he can't really talk about. And then I watched the movie Black Panther, and I see him playing M'Baku. And now we know him as Winston Duke, the king of Wakanda. So, like, you just keep seeing it.
That is an incredible story. It is hard to be a bulky bus boy because you're dealing with fragile dishes.
Yeah. Yeah.
As you were telling the story, I was thinking, okay, who could it be? No one was coming to mind. And then you go Black Panther. Great storytelling. 10 out of 10. That have y'all kept in touch? Is this like we just had this time in this restaurant and then that's it?
We have loosely kept in touch. Like I can message him on Instagram or something, and he'll respond. There was also a time after that because I didn't know what he was doing. I didn't know that he was doing that big project. But in that year, I was trying to work as an assistant to a casting director. I was an assistant to Kim Harden,
Okay.
and I was just a reader for her. And so I'm always trying to look out for people I've met along my
totally
journey. So there was a role that came in that needed like a big imposing guy to play like the villain. And I reached out to Winston and I was like, man, this would be great for you. This could be like your big break. Like you could, I'll put you on the map. And he was just like, nah, I'm cool. Like, and I wondered in that moment, I'm like, why doesn't he chomping at the bit for this? And now I know why.
Asked and answered. Yep.
Asked and answered. But yeah, he's a great guy. He's very, very, funny and just wonderful spirited and just very happy. And yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of helping people, I want to end on the collective and then I'm going to let you get out of here.
Oh.
That is the mission of this organization that you're president of, connecting actors to casting directors, to producers, agents, etc., to help them come up in the industry, land that big break. Maybe without busting so many tables if you can help it. Can you tell me about some recent wins or highlights that you've been able to see through the collective?
Yes. So the collaborative.
Oh no, the collaborative.
No. It's okay. Literally every person does the same thing. It's just how it is. So the collaborative is an organization. I did not. No, please don't, because you're so accurate in terms of how people call it the collective. Like I'm tempted for us to rename it the collective at this point. But
okay, the journalist in me is kind of cringing, but continue. Go ahead.
No,
sorry,
please
y'all.
don't.
The
Seriously.
collaborative.
Yeah. The Collaborative it's a nonprofit organization for actors. We started as the Collaborative in 2015. I was not running it at the time. I took over presidency 3 some odd years ago, and it's just this incredible tool that we have. Actors audition to become part of it. Once they get accepted, then they have access to all of our resources. Those resources include insurance for projects that they want to shoot. If you want to make a short film or a feature film, we can provide insurance for you. Access to our studio. We have a studio space in Sherman Oaks where you can come and use it to teach classes yourself, to shoot projects. You want to shoot your audition tapes there. We have a whole Rolodex of people, of professionals in the industry. You need camera people, you need lighting people, you need directors, you need this. Because all the people who are part of it are also deeply rooted in the industry. And then we offer classes with casting directors, with producers, with writers, where you can get in front of them and perform. You can get to know them. They can get to know you. And a lot of wins happen from people gaining relationships out of this place and then booking later on in projects down the line. We've had people every few weeks we're hearing the news of one of our members who's now going to be doing this play with this acclaimed theater, doing a recurring role on that Apple show or that whatever Netflix thing, because we have this union of actors who are all multi-hyphens, just like they all write for themselves, they produce, they direct, they do everything. And now we work together to make the big projects. We work together and we bring each other in on things. My biggest project, like Murderville, which is the very first kind of series regular thing I got to do.
Darren Phillips, we were there.
That's right. That is an indirect result of the collaborative. I got to meet some people there who recommended me to this casting office, who liked my work and put me in this project, and then who I developed a relationship with, and then it led to this. So like I said, everything is a seed planted, but the collaborative is a place where you can become a fan of the people around you, where you can gain fans, and you can just spread your, I guess, dreams of what you want to do in this industry, and get to know people and have people know you. It just strengthens your ability because no one is doing this alone. No one.
Yes. And I think that's such a great mic drop that summarizes this entire conversation. Thank you, Philip Smithey V, for your time, for being so engaging. This was a treat. I really enjoyed myself. I hope you did too.
I enjoyed the heck out of myself. And thank you so much, Randy, for this. And I'm so glad and honored to be your first guest. And I hope that you'll have me back and we can do this again.
Yes. Thank you. And like I said, you are stuck with me for the rest of your career. The first Oscar nom, I will be there. The next
you're stuck
I'll
with me,
be
Randy.
there.
You're stuck with me.
Johnson premiering Saturday tonight. And the finale airs on October 5th. So get it while it's hot, y'all. Every Saturday until then. First 3 seasons streaming on Hulu. Philip, thank you.